once again. I'm your host, Doc Rotten, and this is Horror News Radio, the official Gruesome Magazine podcast. Back to me again this week are the scariest, goriest, bloodiest co-hosts on the net. And tonight we're reviewing The Black Phone.
Dun, dun, dun.
Exactly. Joining me this week is Dave Dreher, lead news writer at Gruesome Magazine. How you doing, Dave?
Hello, squad. How's everybody?
Squad.
I'm wearing my Night of the Living Dead hat in honor of Tom Savini mask.
There you go. There you go.
The
Perfect.
Night
Perfect
90
thing.
hat.
Perfect thing to do. All right. Also joining us is award-winning filmmaker Christopher G. Moore.
You know what, Doc? I just wanted to come in here and look at you.
No. No. Stop. Oh my gosh. Let's welcome.
Thanks to Fangoria.
Let's welcome the full committee member of the New York City Horror Film Festival, a screenwriter in himself, Brian W. Smith. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me back. I'm always happy to talk about horror movies, and you guys are the best.
Aw.
No mask. No mask.
Oh,
for us?
shut
We'll kill you last.
All right. Well, we're here to review The Black Phone, a film that took a few years to come out because, you know, life happened, world happened. I think it originally had a screening in like early 2020, right? Or was it even fall of 2019?
Fantastic Fest, wasn't it?
Fantastic Fest, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
I think it
wow.
was 2019.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean,
That one?
yeah, it's been ready for a while, but it is out now, and we are here to review it, and very excited to do so. What we're going to do is we're going to start off giving you our first impression. That will be spoiler free, and then we'll dive into discussions and we'll get into spoilers and talk about the meat of the story. And then we'll wrap things up with our final thoughts, our score 1 to 5, and our favorite scene. And of course, we hope you enjoy not only this review, but many others that we have on our site. And if you do like them, please hit the like, the subscribe, share with a friend. It'll do wonders for us, and we will be so thankful. And of course, leave your comments down below. All right, let's look at the cards so we can get in on this. The Black Phone 2022 from Universal and Blumhouse. Available in theaters starting June 24th, 2022. Synopsis: after being abducted by a child killer and locked in a soundproof basement, a 13-year-old boy starts receiving calls on a disconnected phone from the killer's previous victims. That's right. That's exactly what the synopsis is. It works.
Yep.
Directed by Scott Derrickson, written by Scott Derrickson and C. Robert Cargill. Based on a short story by Joe Hill. The cast includes Mason Thames, Madeline McCraw, Ethan Hawke, Jeremy Davies, E. Roger Mitchell, Troy Rudeseel, and James Ransone. That's pretty close.
You did pretty good with all those, Doc.
Pretty
That was
close,
nice.
pretty
That was an
I'm
impressive
proud of
reading.
you.
Yeah, that was damn fine.
Nobody practiced. All right. I still feel like I messed one up. But anyway, let's get into our first impressions. And you know what, Brian?
Oh,
You are first there.
Guest of honor.
thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, Black Phone. I got to see this actually at Tribeca a few weeks back. The director was there, and they it was a really fun screening. Then I started again last night with the regular folks, and that was a different screening. But overall, I appreciate the skill and craft and the suspense, and I think Ethan Hawke does a really good job in his performance. And I thought the kids did really well. It's got some really good tension. It has that sort of, obviously Joe Hill has separated himself from, not separated, but he's of the Stephen King lineage, but it has that vibe, that feel to it. But I think the direction's really good. The setting is not overtly obnoxiously 70s. It just is. It feels of the time.
It really does, yeah.
And the setting and the wardrobe and everything about it, the way it's set up is really grounded in a sort of reality. And then of course things get a little more other reality, but it's really. It's well made. It's fun. It's I like the opening credits as well. That was one of my favorite.
There you go.
Sort of sets the tone immediately. So.
Perfect. Dave Dreher, what was your first impression of The Black Phone?
I agree with Brian. This film really captured the 70s as a child of the 70s. It just really took me back kind of to my childhood. It really did. They nailed it, much like Stranger Things kind of nailed the 80s. This has definitely nailed the 70s in tone. I remember when the short story came out. And this thing's been bopping around for a while. It came out in 2004 or 2005. The story, the book came out right around the same time it came out that Joe Hill was Stephen King's son. So they kind of coincided. Really, in that collection of short stories, Black Phone didn't really stand out that much. All the other stories in there. So it's weird that this would get the adaptation from that collection. But I think they did a magnificent job on this, and the overall creepiness that it just oozes from this film is great. And I think Ethan Hawke is amazing. The fact that he acted so, what's the word I want to use? I mean, he wasn't able to use his face a lot because of the mask. So, but he still oozes this creepiness just by changing the tremble of his voice. And, a couple times when you'd go from giggling hysterically to kind of going, that deep growl, just creeped the shit out of me. And I loved it.
And his body language.
Yeah, just so good. I found it to be amazing. I can't wait to go see it again.
Excellent. All right, Christopher G. Moore, what was your first impression of the Black Phone?
I'm on one bit, I'm going to have to disagree with Dave. I don't read a lot of books, but I did read that compilation of short stories, and that short story did stand out to me. I haven't read it in years, and I reread it just recently again, which is only about 20 pages. And it has elements of that original, but it's really great how it sort of expands out, adds new characters, and it actually adds extra elements to it. That I think work really well. I absolutely adored this film. I think it's Scott Derrickson's best film to date. I think it's got, it's got so many different elements that work well, and it has more humor in it than what I expected. There were several parts where I laughed out loud. I love the dialogue. I love the cinematography and the filmmaking in general, how there's certain times where they just use the music and they don't even, and what's going on. You don't have to hear what people are saying in conversations. You just know the situation they're in, and it works so well. There's points where it gets very creepy and scary. It has a few jump scares. That made me jump again the second time around. I was mad because it made me jump again. And I think the performances of these two main kids, especially the young girl who plays Gwen, is award-winning in my opinion. She needs some awards for that role because her embodiment of the character, just how she reacts to certain things, it's so powerful. And I think the ending of it makes me cry. The two times I've seen it, made me cry both times. So it has a very powerful and great ending. Even though I'm a big fan of the 80s and grew up the 80s, I grew up, in the 70s as well. And this is one of the few times where I felt like I was transported back to the 70s. And it has all those elements of the 70s that did happen, where I remember seeing fights and people not really doing anything about it, people beating the shit out of each other and stuff like that. And there's also just the times where you get your ass beat, and those people that were very abusive towards the kids, that which still happens today, but it was much more prevalent. And you have, and I think a lot of the stuff that they actually wasn't really spelled out in the short story. They did a great job of embodying that and making you feel that. Cause there's like a few moments, especially with the Gwen character, that's heartbreaking to watch because of her performance and how she responds to things. But I just thought this was just brilliant. I think it was well conceived. I feel like it's almost like the reverse end of Silence of the Lambs to some degree, with with a nice little callback to it, which callback to a certain editing part of Silence of the Lambs. And I think, yeah, I think Ethan Hawke, after seeing his great villain turn in Moon Knight and seeing this, he just needs to play all the villains.
That's what he's afraid of, I think.
Well, I guess so. He was always scared to stay away from it. But I think he does an amazing job because actually in the original story, it's like an overweight guy who doesn't even wear a mask. And so in this one, I think he does a really great job of embodying this creepy character. You're not even sure what kind of weird crap he's going to do to you, but you don't want it to happen. So yeah, I thought this is my favorite horror film of the year, hands down.
Favorite horror film of the year. Yeah, I think this film is so well made and so thoughtful and purposeful. I mean, this is a true adult-oriented horror film. Not an adult horror film in some way you might think of it, but I mean, it's made for adults and it's very serious. Even though it has kids in the cast, it is very much a very serious. It takes the genre serious. It takes the story serious, and it is a refreshing turn on on what we get offered in theaters. And I think if you look at the box office, I think it paid off. It did very well at the box office compared to monster movies out there that are raking in the cash. It kept up with them, right? So kind of awesome in that way. I agree with you, Scott Derrickson. This is probably his best crafted film. I'm not sure if I don't know. Sinister and Emily Rose are still at this point a little, I don't know. I will have to give that some thought about if it's my favorite one of his or not. But I did enjoy this, and I think a lot of it hinges on the two kids, the two leads, the brother and sister, because their performances are, oh my God, so good. And she gives this movie, the young actress gives this movie such strength and resolve that many adult actors can't do. It's really, really is amazing. And then of course, Ethan Hawke he's so reserved and yet so frightening, right? He's not, he gets a chance to be imposing, but most of the time he's kind of sitting back, not, he's not necessarily an alarming person in his voice and his mannerisms, but that mask does a lot. But it's still very creepy. Like the little, we'll get into all the details later, but I really enjoyed this. And yeah, I'm really excited that this is doing well. I'm so happy this movie is being received well.
Well, luckily it only cost like $17 million. So it had that Blumhouse model of keeping the cost low, but at the same time, you can still tell a great movie and not have to have huge costs involved with it, and there's so many great, I feel like there's more level of artistry with the filmmaking that a lot of these big budget movies are doing. There's the incorporation of sort of like the flashbacks, which are done like old home movies, that kind of stuff. It's just and then just how the dead sort of talk, which this definitely has a little bit of the Stephen King DNA. This guy wrote this, definitely came from Stephen King's sperm. That's for sure, because he's got. And I would say, I think I was joking with someone the other day. This feels like the best Stephen King movie that's not a Stephen King movie. And it's one of the few Stephen King stories that actually hits the ending.
Yeah, well, that's the difference.
Actually it delivers on a good ending for once. Yeah.
Now, let me know when we're in the spoiler territory, because
we are in spoiler territory. Go right ahead.
It's a Blumhouse film. You think we're going sequel? Because you see one body come out of the corn, going to the corner. There's one body bag that goes into the coroner's van. I think in my second viewing, I overheard a girl in the school saying, "Yeah, my dad's a cop. He hit him with an axe," or something like that. Like, do we think there's going to be a chance that they?
I did hear that. I wasn't.
Switch body, and I was like, "Did I really hear that?" Yeah, it's like they only showed one body. They gave us the ending we would like to see, but I'm pretty sure there were a lot of things open for franchise potential. I didn't ask it at the Q&A, but I was curious.
I can't imagine Ethan Hawke doing it, but
I would hope not.
He probably would, but there's even a high angle shot of someone walking off into the distance. I'm like, I feel like Blumhouse is just laying in all the, you know how they are.
just
Just
in case.
just laying in all the little Easter eggs there. That was just my take on it. It is a very satisfying ending. That surprised me, I think, more than anything, that it was so surprising, that it was so satisfying, and that he did get, I guess he got his comeuppance. But I don't know. I feel like there are a lot of different ways that they can take the story if they're gonna. I mean, they've made him a Halloween Horror Nights character, so they've got plans for him. I think
they're already There's actually a Christmas ornament with his face on it available for sale.
It is a well-made mask. Now, Dave Dreher, why is that mask so well made? Perhaps.
It's of course Tom and Jason Baker were tagged with making the mask, and the mask is getting a lot of attention. An amazing amount of attention, actually. The amount of press that Tom has gotten off this has been great, and it's wonderful. I mean, it's great for Tom. He's gotten to make his Universal monster. I mean, this is his realm into the. I mean, of course, he had Jason, but Jason he didn't make the hockey mask, right? I mean, he killed Jason was a little boy in the movie he made, and then in part 4 he just picked it up. The mask already existed, so this is something that he created. And it's really great, and the fact that you sometimes he's wearing the top and the bottom, and then the faces change. You got the one with no mouth and the one with the smiley mouth, and it was brilliant in its simplicity, and it's great, and I think it really is like super creepy. I mean, it just really is, much like the Michael Myers mask. It's so simple you can't stop thinking about it. So
I mean, it is intricate. It's far more intricate than what Michael Myers wears, but it's also
but I mean, it's plain. White. It's not painted up. It's not gaudy. It's just it's kind of painted up, and it's kind of Tom said in one of the interviews he did, I think with LA Times, where it actually came because at that time they were making those face masks because of the pandemic. Remember, he was doing the face masks that looked like the bottom half, and that's actually kind of what they built it off of. So that's why he's able to wear just the top or the bottom or stuff. So that's kind of where it came from. And
I think I read the LA Times article or whatever, and they were talking about that originally he was supposed to wear like a full mask, and then you realize why are you going to have Ethan Hawke wearing a mask? So we got to take it off. Bigger, so but also I do like that they sort of took almost like the idea of the theatrical drama comedy type mask, and they had one that's like no expression, that he wears it to sort of in different levels to interact. Like initially there's no expression, there's no mouth, and the next one it's like it's smiling, and the next one it's sad, depending on how he's feeling or how he wants to manipulate the victim. And that's such a even weirder thing, just wearing the same mask all the time, that it's like those toys where you can just switch the head out to whatever mood that you're in. And I don't know, I think it's such a brilliant concept, because like I said in the original story, that the guy didn't wear a mask. He was just
wasn't he? And correct me if I'm wrong, I have not read the story in a while, Christopher, but was he not he wasn't a part-time magician. He was a clown, right? Because I remember when I read it at the time that I thought it was maybe some type of a play on Pennywise and It, because it was the black balloon, red balloon, and this dude was a clown and Pennywise was a clown. I'm almost. I'd have to revisit it, so please don't. I haven't read that. I haven't read that story in probably
or Gacy maybe.
Well, I don't think it was as because in it he was just like a regular person. He didn't even have makeup or anything.
I'm pretty sure he was a amateur clown, or it was something. There was something with a clown in the story.
But I think that's the great thing, because there's a lot of elements in the book that they expanded or added additional elements. Like the whole mother subplot was not part of that.
Yeah.
The whole daughter having almost like the Shining type element isn't part of it. In the book, there's only the one kid, the Bruce kid, and he feels it. All these other things that happen and interacting with all these other kids and stuff was not in the book.
Right.
So it's very interesting how they sort of expanded it out and really made this universe even more interesting, just building up this background information involving like the mom committing suicide, because I think the mom was still alive in the original story. So they did a really great job of, I mean, there's still where there's stuff that's like line for line, some of the lines he says, and even just him, the whole ending where he's like, you know, it's for you. All that stuff is still in
That
there.
was good. That was good. I enjoyed
Yeah.
But it is kind of interesting how they sort of add this whole other element with stuff, because they even don't even, there's more the one kid's more about him thinking what his sister's doing as opposed to us knowing what she's actually doing. So how they expanded the sister part, and I think the sister part is amazing. That role in itself is such a powerful thing. It's a powerful thing about siblings, you know, and wanting to care about trying to define what happened, you know, and dealing with this horrible sort of father figure who's also, you kind of have sympathy for him as well. He's not like a full evil character in general. He's just messed up because he's misses his wife and stuff, and he's drinking all the time. But then those little things where they don't have to spell it out to you too much. They just, like the whole thing where you just see beer cans and you hear him, like, you can tell he's got a hangover, but they don't come out and say, you got a bad hangover, don't you? It's all implied through making too much sound and that kind of stuff.
They assume that their audience is smart enough to figure it out for
themselves.
themselves.
And again, that's great storytelling. It's both Scott Derrickson, of course, C. Robert Cargill, who I'm a big fan of. They wrote Doctor Strange and Sinister. So I think they really knew to do a great job of showing without saying sometimes. And also, just like I said earlier, there's sometimes where music swells and these people are having conversations. You don't necessarily need to understand the content of it. You know what's happening. So you feel the feelings of that specific, you know, scene. And to me, that's great storytelling if you don't have to have so much dialogue explaining everything.
And it does build a really interesting mythology with these kids on the phone, you know, that, you know, they forget, you know, first thing they forget is their names, which I found incredibly fascinating. And then, you know, how each kid, even on, you know, through the phone, still had their own personality and own, you know, ways of communicating, and how the character took all those things. You know, the one lad, Bruce, the guy that's in the basement, and he takes all those things and crafts up his escape. It's really fascinating. Every little bit played a part. So
the puzzle aspect was really great. How he used all those pieces of the you know, of the different parts and was able to construct his own getaway.
Well, it was very resourceful in a way that feels genuine. You know, and even when he couldn't make certain things happen, like getting into the freezer, that still allows him to get past the dog. So there's like, from a storytelling aspect, I think this is one of the times where it's less crazy Home Alone-esque, but it's more about like, okay, this is how you get out of this situation. This is how you set a trap. And it works, you know, and I think utilizing the different voices from the other, you know, from the, you know, other world or whatever, to sort of like talking through certain things. And also you get a little bit of background on some of these other characters as well. It's a great kind of storytelling technique, you know, and also just how you see the flashbacks almost like home movies. I thought that was kind of a cool way of showing flashbacks in a cool way.
Yeah, it does get into my one minor gripe with the Ethan Hawke character, in that he wasn't the smart. I guess they were going for realism, but he wasn't the smartest killer. The kid already injured him with a pen. The kid still has the pen. It's like there were things like, you know, the window grate's gone. He didn't notice that. There were a lot of things that he was just missing, that I was just I was like, okay, narratively it just goes forward and we get a satisfying ending. But I just didn't feel that he was as, I mean, yeah, he's a threatening killer. He's already killed people. We know this, but or do we? You know, I just feel like there was something in his character that just felt like was missing. And he even has the brother living in the house that's openly.
Well, not that house though.
Right. That's true. As we the Silence of the Lambs, and also Silence of the Lambs. The kid kind of reminded me of was giving Jodie Foster vibes. I don't know why. I was getting like
the Finney character.
Very intense. Yeah. Kid actor, but he just also had like a Jodie Foster. I was like, I had to look him up. I was like, is he her kid or something? I don't know.
Well, yeah, and I think that's, you know, as someone that's a huge fan of the Silence of the Lambs, I was like, this feels like from the perspective of the woman in the well to some degree, you know. But also you kind of incorporate the whole bad guy, good person sort of conversations, and even towards the end we actually have that sort of parallel editing a similar parallel editing sequence like in Silence of the Lambs, which I it didn't bother me. I think it worked well, even though I kind of knew where it was going. But yeah,
See,
I like that.
me. I don't know why. Again, as I told you in the pre-show, I was kind of in a bad screening. There was a lot of noisy participants in the theater I was in, but that surprise with the two houses, I was like, holy shit. I didn't pick up on it at all.
No.
I feel like I should have, but I didn't.
Well,
No, I
I know
didn't
it's
get it either.
people in my theater. It's like they were like, "Get in there, get after him," and they're like, and then I heard, I'm like, "What?" so I guess for me, that's to me, that one scene from Science Lambs is one of the best editing sequences in history, just based on how it takes your expectations and goes a different direction. And I still think they do a great job within this. But I think because I've just seen that before, I already look for that in general. If you don't show me all the specifics of a certain area,
you're already suspicious.
I'm already it's my filmmaker thing.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I would, but getting to what Brian was talking about, I just feel like he's not exactly the most stable mind in the world, and I think he's just so set on like his little game. It's more about falling into the realm of his game and then playing his game where he's going to get after him and that kind of thing. But yeah, I mean,
because most of them are predictable, but this one kid isn't, and that's what he likes about him.
Well, that's
he'd already gotten away with it. What, 5 times, 6 times?
Yeah, and he usually killed him
figuring,
pretty early.
He's got this one, so.
Yeah, but this one's different. The one thing that surprised me is that you didn't use the line about Max on me in the beginning, where he goes, "He's an idiot, but he's my idiot."
and also, just getting back to the girl that plays Gwen.
Yes,
I love that sequence where she meets up with the police at the school. That is like one of my favorite scenes from the whole movie, because she's not like allowing these adults to run her over. She is telling, "What do you think? I'm the killer?" and calls them fart knockers or something like that. And I just found I think she's such a little firecracker of a human being. Her brother's always trying not to sort of like taking all this abuse and stuff, but she's like willing to throw rocks at bullies and do all these things. It's like that's the kind of sibling you want.
Yep.
At the Tribeca screening, Scott Derrickson mentioned that I guess she was 9 in the film, or when she was making the film. And that scene when she's being abused by the dad and he's making her repeat, "My dreams aren't real. My dreams aren't real." On that third, "My dreams aren't real," that was her ad lib to go angry in the character. I looked for it the second time. I was like, yeah, that apparently he said that was all her. So
well, and I again, the choices, and whether that be the way he directed her or the way she portrayed it, just worked so well to where I felt like she was a real character. And again, that's another great scene, even though it's hard to see as someone that had my ass whooped with a belt many a time when I was growing up, but I've also known people that were really abused by their parents. Her just reaction of crying just felt so real. I just wanted to go through the screen and give her a hug because I felt so bad for her. And then when you can tell that she's like, her attitude comes out in that last thing. Oh my God, it's such a brilliant performance, and things like that. I think it's one of the best kid performances I've seen in a very long time, just on the different levels of emotion and attitude. And I love the part where she's getting on her brother, like, "Ooh, she wants to be your lab partner," and smoochy. I mean, things like that, just the different levels of acting that she does. And I think she's on some Disney Channel or some that they originally, I think I was listening to a podcast where they're interviewing, and they said originally she had a conflict because of her Disney Channel or something, and so they were going to have to recast. And he told Bloom, he's like, "No, we're not going to recast this. We're going to move our shooting so we can incorporate her." And I'm so glad, because she is the shining star. I mean, I'm not to overshadow the young man who's the main character, and he's great too, but I don't know, just something about her character really helps everything to gel, because she's such an interesting character that you love, whether she's like talking to Jesus in one scene or giving the policeman attitude in that scene, or crying, and I think that's why I break every time that at the very ending when she sees her brother again. I'm like, oh my God.
and it makes that ending all the more. I mean, it's a $23 million opening weekend, so I think I sat through the movie thinking it was going to go a completely different way,
Oh,
and
I was worried. Yeah.
I'm so glad it didn't, because I think every once in a while you need a little something, a little pick me up, and I think it's
Mhm.
a nice little
Especially for something set in the 70s, it certainly doesn't have a 70s ending.
right, exactly. I
But
think that's what I was expecting.
yeah, and he got to deliver what could have been an incredibly corny line, but it was actually very satisfying with,
Which I
call me
guess,
Finn, right?
that kind of ties into the Texas Chainsaw Massacre reference. That's the way that ends, right?
Yeah. There you go.
I'm surprised it didn't end with like Finn.
Finn.
Sorry.
F-I-N.
Well, it kind of did
cool.
dialogue-wise.
Dialogue, yeah.
That's too clever. All right,
Call me
Dave.
Finn.
Even though I want to get into
I'm
this,
pretty sure
even
there's going to
though
be a sequel.
even though there isn't too much gore in this, there really isn't,
No, there really isn't at all.
except for one axe.
Yeah,
blow.
the axe scene. Yes.
What did you think of what effects were in here were incorporated? Now, of course, the mask is probably. Do we consider that an
like
effect?
I said, the effects. I mean, this is definitely one of the more frightening films I've ever seen in recent memory. But it wasn't because of the blood and guts. It was because you were really invested in these kids and what they were going through. And the axe scene, I don't think even really. I don't know that the axe scene was even necessary as far as the gratuitousness of the violence in it. I mean, it showed you certainly the depths of the grabber's insanity, I guess. But other than that, and the fact that it really is the only bloody scene, really.
I mean, everything else is just like.
But it just made it all the more powerful, even though it wasn't really that gratuitous. It seemed like it was. Right. So it was just great filmmaking. I think great writing and great execution.
Yeah. So I like how they handled the dog. That made me very happy too. All right, let's go ahead and wrap this up. Let's give our final thoughts, our score 1 to 5, and our favorite thing, because it could have gone a lot different and not have been very fun. They did a good job. Because you just kind of walk up the step. All right, Brian, you're up first. What's your final thoughts? Your score and your favorite scene. You got to do that too.
Oh, final thoughts.
He says no.
Yeah, final thoughts. No. I found it to be it's a satisfying nifty little horror film. I like the practicality of it. It's all pretty much all there on the set. It almost felt like a play in a lot of ways, and the theatrical quality of like the spirits and all that sort of stuff. And I like seeing characters get out of situations or nearly get out of situations, but in this case it was satisfying. So I would give it I'm gonna see it do well. I'm giving it a 5.
Wow. Okay.
I'll give it a 5.
Nice.
Despite the killer being a little kind of corny, but not corny, but just he wasn't as smart or resourceful as I would have.
It wasn't a high Q. He didn't have a high IQ.
It was. I think they were. Yeah, I think for 78, I think they were going. He's not Michael Myers. He's not. I think we're so used to seeing those types of killers, and this was someone that obviously didn't have things planned out, or he was just a little weird. But
I think that's definitely the purpose, because they mentioned Texas Chainsaw quite a bit. So I think that was juxtaposition is what they were after. Yeah.
I'd say my favorite scene. I mean, I apologize if this was someone else's favorite. I like the ending when he gets the better of him, the grabber, and beats the shit out of him. And it was. I mean, it's all leading up to that, of course, but the movie definitely could have gone a different way, especially with Derrickson's prior work. So it's I was expecting a much grimmer ending, and we're in the wrong house, and then we see Finn's ghost walking out or something like that. No, I appreciated the ending. I like the satisfying conclusion, and the crowd reaction was great, and it was a lot of fun. So
that certainly helps. That certainly helps a great deal.
Yeah.
All right, Dave, you're up next. Your final thoughts, your score, your favorite.
I really, really love this movie a lot. I think it was one of the best crafted horror films we've reviewed in quite some time, quite frankly. I'm going to also give it a 5. I haven't given many fives at all, but this one definitely ranks right up there. I want to go see it again because, like I told you, I was in a screening that was filled with a bunch of noisy, non-appreciative viewers. But the one thing, and again, it's really hard to say this is a favorite scene. It's not my favorite scene, but the only time these little bastards all shut up for even 30 seconds was the ass whooping scene when the dad is, is whooping the girl. And it was just so, but it's so well done. And like as Christopher was saying, I came from that generation. I got my school with a giant piece of wood. You know, they used to do that back in the old
Go get a switch.
School punishment. Yeah, you know. So you know, I lived through that, and but her reaction with just how she reacts to her father doing that to her was just so primal. And I mean, I don't know how anyone could watch that and not do what Christopher said, just want to reach out and grab her and hold her and tell her it's going to be okay. And it was just really, really well done. I seriously, perhaps maybe even an Academy Award nomination.
I agree.
Perfect. It was that good.
I'd like to see
so
that.
I hate to say that's a favorite scene. I think it's one of the best scenes I've seen in a horror film in a very long time.
Yeah, maybe maybe standout scene.
Standout scene. Yeah,
I like that.
I like it. That's good. But yeah, I want to go see this again, preferably with at the very least a more appreciative audience, and if at all possible, with nobody else in the theater.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
I think it's coming to Peacock like on July 15th or something.
Is it really?
Yeah. It comes. It's coming out in Peacock not too long down the road here. So
yeah, I was gonna say you could do it. You know, Santos style, go into the theater alone, take the off.
I like to go on Sunday mornings. Usually, first showing Sunday mornings are usually pretty good.
What better? There's no better time to go into the theater and take your pants off than Sunday morning.
But yeah, no, this is a truly special film, made even more special by the fact that you know Tom is involved in it in some way. So yeah, I love this one a lot.
Very good, very good. Christopher G. Moore, sir, your final thoughts, your score. Your favorite scene or scenes?
And also, Dave, I'd also like to mention actually the guy who did my special effects for Backward Creep, as well as my upcoming anthology segment for Worst Laid Plans, Matt Patterson. He was actually one of the people that are helped to create the promotional mask for this film to help promote the film. So I'm kind of excited that somebody that's 1 degree of separation.
Yeah.
And it was filmed in Wilmington, North Carolina.
It was filmed in Wilmington, yeah. I was really blown away by this film. I think just the level of attention to detail when it comes to telling the story in a way that you know, creates atmosphere. It creates fear. It creates sadness. It creates laughter. It just like The Mask and how it goes to different emotions. I feel like this takes you almost like on a roller coaster ride with all the things that are happening, and it's such an interesting story when a lot of it takes place in one room for a good bit of it, you know. So, but I think you know, not only is the filmmaking end on it, and also the writing end when it comes to see Robert Cargill and Scott Derrickson as they adapted. As someone that just recently adapted a short story into a segment, I can understand that sort of a way of taking elements and expanding it and adding your own and changing this and changing that. So I think the additions and the things they added actually strengthen the story even more, even though I think the original story is a great story on its own. But yeah, I think the linchpin of what really delivers it is the performances. Yeah, I think, what is her name?
Madeline McGraw.
Madeline McGraw. I think she is someone to watch. She and you know, I think Brian was talking about it, kind of remind him of Jodie Foster or some of the one kid runs with Jodie Foster. I think that the young McGraw, I think she feels like somebody that could be like Jodie Foster was, to where you could sort of see those early elements of acting ability and how she's going to strengthen and grow as an artist and do even bigger and better performances. But I think her performance is so strong, you know, playing along with the guy who played the brother character. But also you have the adult characters from Jerry Davies, who plays the father. And of course, Ethan Hawke, who, you know, it's easy to play these roles and play it all kind of big and ham it up, but I think he does it in a very subtle way in parts that just makes it even creepier, because he has these subtle things where he just says like, "Ooh," and then the next minute he's growling, and it's like, man, this guy is unstable. I do not want to be in a basement with him. But yeah, and I think I want to say the music's great from that, even the opening intro, some of the music and how they incorporate how it goes from just sort of a very industrial to this beautiful Silence of the Lambs-esque music towards the end when there's the ending and stuff. Yeah, I think this is a true achievement. It's again, like I mentioned earlier, it's my favorite horror film of the year so far. We'll see if there's any competitors as we go along the rest of the year. It gets a total 5 out of 5 or 10 out of 5 or
10 out of 5,
12 out of 5. I can't give enough. I can't say enough good things about it. As for favorite scene, I'm going to pick a really odd scene. I'm going to say when she has the conversation with the cops that come to her school.
Oh my God, that was so good.
And watching again, it still makes me laugh. Her delivery is just so funny because she's like, there's moments where you can sort of see her like, feel somber about things, but the next minute she's like just giving them attitude, and the cops don't know what to do because they think they're trying to like, hey, tell us, how did you figure this out? And it's like, and I don't know, just her dialogue, how she's very profane.
Very profane.
And also I will say, not to add any more to what I'm saying, but I love the dialogue that ties into that period. Like, cause there's a whole thing where she's talking about Danny Bonaducci and stuff. I mean, things like that, and all the little 70s things from what I used to watch Emergency on television, and all the little things that made me feel like I went back in the 70s. But yeah, I can't say enough good things about that. But yeah, this film was a true wonder, and I kind of hope they don't do a sequel to it. I guess I could do a prequel to it, but I hope they don't do a sequel to it. I think it's good on its own.
Yeah, there needs to be one done. Very good, very good. I don't know what to say. I want to call out Jeremy Davis a little bit. You mentioned him briefly, but his role is a thankless role in this film, because he's horrifying in what he has to do, and it's a brave performance from him because it also brings such complexity to that character. He doesn't, he's not afraid of it, and he brings this underlying of struggle and sorrow and regret and all these things that are complex for that role in this film, because it is, usually the parents disappear in movies like these and you don't see them at all, but he plays a big role. Like when Gwen finally goes back to him and says, I want to tell you something, you can't be mad. And then the next scene you see, they're driving in the car together. That's so
powerful scene there.
Yeah. So just want to, say that it's brave of him. But yeah, the cast really makes this work. The two young kids, Mason Thames and Madeline McGraw, are absolutely fantastic. And of course, Ethan Hawke is too. And I really, really enjoyed it. I didn't plan on giving it a 5. But what the hell? I'm going to do it because
we bullied you.
We pressured you into it.
Just talking about it, and it's not your normal kind of horror film. It's not even in the serial killer genre, it's different, right? It's as far as a haunting or a ghost story, it's different. It's very unique, and we need more of that. We need to champion these kind of films, and we're not just blowing smoke here because we like it. Audiences are doing that. It made a good amount of money and a very competitive weekend with 3 huge franchises, or at least one film, maybe not be I guess do you call Top Gun a franchise now?
It is now. There's 2 of them.
but yeah, so it definitely had an uphill battle if you look at it in that respect, and it did a great job. So yeah, how can you not give it a 5?
One for each victim.
Yeah.
Sorry,
so very good. It's easy to pick the axe scene because that was so well done. You know, with the door sliding open slowly, and the kids already knows, and you see him know, and then it's just bam, right? And you're like, oh, well, we knew that was coming. Oh, poor guy. But I want to pick very similar to the police interrogation scene in the principal's office is when she's kneeling at her little house with all the religious stuff and talking to Jesus, and she goes, "What the fuck?" And she's like so mad. And even maybe you're not even real. Like later she goes, "I'm sorry, I said you weren't real." I mean, it's just so great, you know, that it's such a it's the perfect perspective of somebody in that age, right? It's you know, where you start to question things, right? You question, and it was just really kind of special. But it was also hilarious because the delivery and the language, but it was appropriate and it was needed at that moment too. So it was also, you know, so the film is well paced with the highs and the lows where you want them, and you know, the laughs and the scares. And there are a number of scares. We didn't talk about the scares too much. There's a couple of like appearances floating around scene for one that, you know, are right jarring, so, and creepy and get under your skin. So good stuff.
Yeah, I love the representation of the ghost kids, because their voices were always sounding like they were coming from the phone, but then they would be in the same room, and I love how they incorporate that. So yeah, it's really great storytelling.
Yeah, and like when the Robin character like backed into the corner and just basically disappeared. You could still see him, but he was in the shadows, so he felt like he was like the texture of the wall. It was so perfect.
I like the Robin character too, by the way. The kid who played the Robin. I mean, all the kid characters really did a great job.
All of them. Yeah, but there's probably a future for him too, you know.
With his Cheech and Chong shirt.
Yes, I saw that. And he's the one that was like, "Oh, I got to go to the drive-in. We go see everything." Oh man, I said, jealous.
What was that horror movie they were watching with the black and white with the red?
The Tingler. Oh my God, the Tingler.
Is that the Tingler?
Yeah.
Tingler?
Yeah. It's like a special moment where it's like in color with just the blood, and it's like,
God, I haven't watched that in such a long time. I need to go back and watch it. I don't remember that.
They give the wife can't scream, and they give her LSD. And so she sees all these things, and they actually had her painted in gray, and you know, the only thing that was color was the red blood in the hand, and everything else was.
How did I forget that, Ace?
It's amazing what they did. Amazing.
I just love that you see the string when it pulls the Tingler across the.
Oh well, yeah. There's a lot of things about the Tingler.
Wow, that's
I love.
They don't have the special effects budget CGI of today.
The Tingler is awesome. Then all right, well there you go. That's another podcast altogether. That's our review for The Black Phone. Check it out in theaters or Peacock in a couple weeks apparently.
And put your phones away.
Yeah, put your phones away.
Yes. Parents
or the grab.
Black phones or otherwise, put them away. Yeah.
I was tempted to just grab a few.
Oh
phones.
Man,
get them afterwards.
How do you guys remember the old, you know, dial phones?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I'm sure kids are like, "What is that thing?"
I know. I was thinking the same thing.
Know.
It's like, for me, I was like, just remember how if you didn't take your finger out, it would pinch.
Oh yeah, you get caught. Yeah.
Well, at least it wasn't like the Andy Griffith show where you just somehow be able to contact.
Oh no, weird.
Like crank it on the side.
Yeah.
Oh, wow! Look at us going way back.
Yeah, we're old.
All right, we just lost half the audience there with that. All right, you guys, thank you so much for joining me. This was a lot of fun.
Cool.
Thank you, Doc.
Thank you.
I love talking about movies like this.
Especially good movies.
Especially good movies. Although
it helps.
Some bad movies are good too.
Well,
yeah. Let's say good night.
Good night.
Good night.